There we go. So welcome everybody to this week's Perfect Connections. Very excited about the retreat, which we are full now to 16, although lovely Greta, is Greta on? There she is. Greta has offered her camper. I just saw before I came in. Actually, we may take you up on that, because there was a pair of educators from a district when we only had one space left. And so the other one is kind of on a wait list. And so that may work. And they totally, I don't think they have like electricity hookups.
That's okay.
Or anything.
It doesn't need to be electrified.
Yeah.
I mean, we can. I mean, it's nice when it is, but it doesn't have to be. So yeah, we could have, if I could be in it, and I could probably, we can sleep up to 7, but probably not wanting to in this camper. More like 3, maybe 4 for those who are a little more willing to do that. So yeah. If that means somebody on a wait list can come, I'm more than happy.
Great.
I can bring mine too. We also have a camper. It has 3 queen beds, but again, we'll probably sleep 3 comfortably.
Yeah.
Without snuggling. I love you guys, but I don't think I want to share a bed with you.
Yeah. Oh, darn. Because there's, I think, at least 1 or 2 full-size beds there.
Mhm.
Ellen and I was kind of going to squirrel it away for you and I. So.
Okay, great. Let's do it. Fine for you, Susan.
Yeah. I don't snore. I don't
The thought then, Susan, probably is, what does it work in the retreat center? I think, is there a kind of a max in the space in there when we're all gathered?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That can justify or give a limit, an upper limit, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry, Greta, were you saying something about like limits of numbers of people?
Yeah, I was gonna say for the retreat, like if I can bring this, if Ellen can bring it, but how many is the number that's mostly comfortable maybe in the facility, doing activities together, whatever that looks like.
Right.
Eating, that sort of thing.
Well, I know that one of the buildings has because they've done some weddings there, will take 49.
Oh, wow.
49 people. That said, it's a house. It's not a conference space. So it's not like the Kelly Inn where you would have a conference room where you could seat 49 people. There's like a living room, or like in the other house, there are 2 small rooms. So if you were doing breakout talks, or something like that. And then of course, if it's a lovely afternoon, like you could just all sit outside. So yeah, so we'll work that out. Okay. Yeah, so welcome everybody. Who has anything for the group? How'd your week go? What wonderful thing happened this week? Becca, what wonderful thing happened this week?
What wonderful thing? I don't know. Well, my Thursday night class has been very under enrolled this year, and we now have a total of 7 kids in that class. So that's kind of exciting, including a new family that I believe is primarily Spanish speaking. She didn't do a whole lot of talking, so that's actually just a guess on my part. But I think she'll fit in really well with the group. So my Thursday night class is great. My Monday class is not, but it's 2 people if everybody comes. That's a lot harder. But Thursday night's looking good.
Good. Good. Anybody else have a wonderful thing you want to share? Announcements? Celebrations?
I have to say, I've started checking in with my classes, and I don't call it joys and concerns anymore. I call it share our gold star parenting moments. And for some reason, parents really love, and they'll come up to me and they'll be like, I had a gold star parenting moment. There's
Oh.
something about calling it a gold star moment that they really like. And maybe it's because, I don't know, for some classes, I was like, that is so awesome. If I had gold stars, I would totally give you one. Like, yay. So I've been checking in with them like that, and they really enjoy it. And I'm finding that, I'm like, I'll say what went well. That's not nearly as, for whatever reason, they really are digging. Like, I had a gold star moment. And I'll say too, like, maybe it was a gold star parenting moment, or a gold star, like your kid like did something awesome and you were super proud. So, and then sometimes I'll be like, well, I'm sorry, that's like 3 gold stars. And other parents will like give each other how many stars they think. It's kind of turned into a funny like joke. But it's really fun, and they really enjoy it. So, and then I'll be like, how about your no star moments? Or like, and it's just, I don't even know where it came from, but they're starting to use that language, and it's really fun. So I just thought I'd share that as
Oh,
a fun way to check in.
yeah.
Yeah. Anna's like, thank you.
Are there other ways you guys check in? I mean, we've talked, like in my classes, I'll do the, crappy to happy thing, thumbs up, thumbs down. Joys and concerns is, of course, sort of the baseline for a lot of classes. Are there other ways that you check in with families yeah, Mary Kay?
I stopped using joys and concerns a really long time ago, like maybe 30 years ago, because when we would start with joys and concerns, sometimes we never got to the topic.
Yeah.
And so I check in one-to-one with parents during the parent-child time. And then I always frame a question related to the topic. Like if we're talking about, so last week it was parenting in a world where there's a lot of conflict. So what is something that you have found that has been a hard conversation, or what's a way that you felt good about having a braver conversation, and what kind of tips could you share about that? So
Mhm.
I think I've shared in the past, but I have like a stoplight, one color on each page, and it's just on a little ring, and I send it around the room sometimes, and I'm just like, how are you showing up today? Was it a good morning? Was it I made it here morning? Or was it, I can't believe I'm here, I have 500, 10 other things I should be doing right now? Just to kind of get a gauge of the room to see, like, is this a day that I'm going to do a lot of talking and you guys just need to sit here and listen and decompress, or are we ready for a really rich conversation?
So Naomi, what do the different colors represent? Is like red is like zombie, and green is I'm in a good mood and I'll probably talk. Okay. Yeah, I think that speaks to Becca when you said about the parents are just saying fine. I mean, that's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna sit here. And there was I'm sure a lot of you, if you follow meditation stuff, know Sharon Salzberg, and she has a wonderful thing that she'll start some meditations with, or with groups that I've honestly never done, but it's really stayed with me. And I thought it's who have you brought with you today? And and I think that that's so meaningful, because it could be somebody who is in our heart, and it's like they're like you're learning parent, like it's about a particular child that you're having a struggle with, or all of the people who are supportive to you, and they've brought you to this, like it was hard for you to come today, but you knew that people were supportive of you. But I've always liked that, and to really get us in touch that our presence isn't alone and is connected somehow with others.
When my junior in high school comes home from school, I'll sometimes, not every day, it would be too much, but sometimes I'll say, tell me 3 things. And that really works well with him. So I tried that in the parent group, and a lot of people couldn't come up with 3 things. But I have said, tell me 2 things, and it can be about parenting or not. And then everyone goes around and just thinks of 2 things. And that has been a good kind of check in. What else is going on? They're free to talk about good things or bad things or parenting or not. And
And Anna, those are, tell me 2 things that were good for you this week, or just,
I've usually left it open. Just tell me 2 things.
oh, okay.
Sometimes I've said, tell me 2 things about the past week or since I've seen you last.
Oh,
2
Yeah.
things that come to mind. Yeah.
have those then, do you transition in some way from those to the class, like hold on to something that was said and make that transition? Or is it just kind of this is our welcome time, just a check-in time, and now today we're going to talk about this?
Yeah, I always, similar to Mary Kay, I usually have another question that is related to the topic. But it's interesting. I like starting with just some questions like that to get people talking. Whatever your topic is, you can relay back to what so-and-so said or your experience with that. Yeah. That's kind of one I use in place of joys and concerns. Just especially if it's been a couple weeks since I've seen some people.
Yeah. Hi, Carissa. We're just talking about ways that we sort of start classes and ways that we check in with parents. And Megan, we've been thinking a lot about you in the last few weeks. How are you doing?
Thank you. Good. All's good.
And
Yeah, Britta is here too, and she experienced the screaming parent right with me. She is my coworker. And we haven't heard anything from that parent. We haven't got to talk to her. We haven't heard any more from our boss. So she hasn't obviously come back to our program. So
she has not.
Okay. No. So we'll see. Both Britta and I have kind of rationalized it as she was probably having a really bad day. Something else was probably going on, and we were just the brunt of her anger in some capacity.
So Britta, how was that for you? I mean, you're a relatively new teacher. It's kind of stuff we don't teach in the parent and family program. Or nobody would get their license. How was that for you to witness your valued colleague being verbally assaulted by an overly stressed parent? If you don't mind my asking.
It was not pleasant, to say the least. It was just, I was surprised how deer in headlights I felt, I guess. Reflecting back, it's like, oh, should have done this or should have said this. But at the time, it was just thrown really off guard, because usually all my interactions with parents have been, even the ones that aren't really having a good time, the overall tone isn't quite so threatening, I guess. And a lot of the conversations, when, especially if they have a problem, are a little more private, I guess, than that.
Yeah.
So it was, I was just really thrown off.
And maybe she hasn't come back because, or he or she, I still have to go back and listen to that episode podcast, but maybe they may be too embarrassed to come back at this point. Like, oh my God, what have I done? You can hope, right? Like that it was out of embarrassment that they haven't returned. Not that they're still really stewing at you, but flowers and chocolate would not be out of the realm of, oh, wow, you know what? I was off base. Here you go. So And, I think some people too, like you said, my guess is, it wasn't you, it was just all that built up, whatever was going on, just snapped. Red brain, right? Lid was flipped. No teaching in that moment.
Still, just so much there. And yeah. And Britta, I think, like I fall on the ice and people go, oh, you could have slipped this way and you wouldn't have broken anything. And it's just like, those things are they have to be so reflexive, and they become reflexive when they're experienced repeatedly and when you're trained and prepared. But you hit stuff like that. I mean, I think I mentioned, Megan, when that didn't happen with a parent, but it happened with a neighbor who just lost it and I cried. It was so unexpected from this particular individual that there was just this visceral response of shock. And then the next thing I knew, I was crying because it was so surprising, right? So Britta, please be gentle with yourself for all of those things that you could have done. What happened to Megan, bless her heart, was so unusual, fortunately, in our dealings, but really, really tough. And as a ally, it can be hard to know what you do in that moment, especially when you're in such a state of shock.
It reminds me a little bit of, I think I mentioned it before, Brene Brown's, her book, and she talks about the emotion of regret and the idea of, Britta and Megan, you have this opportunity, and I had one this week where a little boy pushed a little girl in a class, and then one mom, they've both been around for a while. Oh, I'm so tired of him pushing her all the time. I think I'm going to be done with this class if that happens again. And I'm like, I wasn't even in the room. I heard about it like third hand. I was handling a different situation. And I'm like, oh, okay, what are we going to do with this emotion, right? Between these two people who are in actually like 2 classes together every week, and they know each other and they've been through a lot together and whatever. And I'm thinking, okay, what do I do? What do I do? And I didn't have anything at the moment, but I didn't want to live in regret of the opportunity that we could learn from what happened in the classroom, even though I wasn't there. And so I took this I was trying to be brave and say, okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about what was going on in the situation, how emotions got flared. And I started off with just that statement. I said to the group, in the parent group, I said, so I heard there was a little bit of a situation in the early childhood room, and I've been learning about regret. And I go, and I just don't want to regret that we don't take a moment just to talk about what happened, what triggered this, where are we at right now, what can we learn from this? And we just went there, and I was really surprised they smiled at each other as soon as I brought it up. The 2 moms looked at each other and smiled, like sheepishly, kind of like, oh crud, I'm being called on my crap, or whatever. I don't know exactly what the emotions were exactly, but we went there and we talked about it, and I feel really good about their processing it. I don't know that you guys will ever, I'm not saying that this is something you guys need to do, Britta and Megan, but these opportunities we have with these really heightened emotions, I don't want to lose the opportunity to look back and grow and learn. And I guess that's something that I've been challenged with what I've been reading recently. And that was an example of something. Not always easy. And you have to gauge. I mean, these people I have relationship with enough. If I didn't know them and have enough side comments and giggles and stuff like that with them, I probably wouldn't be much more careful. But anyway, Britta and Megan, that's a tough situation to be in. And like you've been encouraged with, don't punish yourself for it, but I encourage you to be brave and look at it and then have some thoughts about what am I going to do? What might I do next time? If you know, if you have the wherewithal and your lid isn't flipped, right? And you go into automatic responses, what is that something that I could do the next time? I don't know, just some thoughts that come to mind when we hit this topic.
I was also thinking that not in any way, shape, or form that you have a need to apologize. But if you're feeling generous enough to want that parent back in class, and it would be totally understandable if you don't. I'm probably a couple generations beyond those of you who are doing this, but writing us a note and dropping it off with parents that you know, just to say, we miss your being in class, or I hope you feel comfortable coming back to class. And if you'd like to talk more, I would be open to that, or, you know, whatever. Only the things that you really feel and are willing to do. And like I said, I would not include an apology in there. I would just say, you know, it might even be as simple or as innocuous as, I hate to see you miss class, or I hate to see your child and you miss class. But sometimes that can be really meaningful, especially today when nobody writes notes. Nobody.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting because Britta and I were just talking about this today with another parent. And I was like, I would love to be able to just talk to her, to just, I don't know what that would look like, but when I really think about it, I truly believe that there was other stuff going on in her life that sparked that high emotion. And it's unfortunately she isn't in a class, it's a drop-in in place scenario. And so we don't get to see her all the time. What I am apprehensive of is asking our director for her email. And that's how I would have to go about it, is to ask, because she's the one who wrote to our director and complained about us. And it's interesting because I would have the vulnerability with this parent, but I don't know if I have the vulnerability with our director. And so to go and ask for that email just to send her, or her information just to send her a simple note, I would be totally willing to, but our boss wasn't all that nice. Our boss sides like with the families versus us. And so I don't know if she would even if I asked if we would be willing, or if she would be willing to give us her email.
could you frame the note you would send and share it with your your director, perhaps along the lines of, I feel like we didn't get as much of an opportunity to talk when you were here, and I would love to have that opportunity again. If the drop-in is something that she still has the opportunity to come back to, then I would, lay out, here's the schedule for this, or I'd be happy to talk to you at another time. When you and I, for example, you and I and Britta could talk specifically, but without, and because I'm not sure I would want to talk to someone who had done that alone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think Britta and I think, well, I won't speak for you, Britta, but I think we're like still processing what that looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So what happened in my class, actually, it was about 2 months ago, I invited a guest speaker for a title of inclusive parenting that is kind of related to racism. And during this presentation, and the one parent actually is grandparent, so she said, I have to leave. And she left one sentence and left. And I was, in the process. So after the class, I called her. I said, "Are you okay?" And she was so angry at me. And she said, "This is not this is, she's a shame on her. Like, this spreading anger and hatred. This is not, inclusive parenting, right? So I couldn't, I was kind of froze at that time. And so I really resonated with Mary, what Mary said, you do not have to make apologize. After that, I because that was so surprised. She was the one, the most surprised to me, because I thought maybe other people, younger people would have reaction, because this representative is a African-American background. Of course, during the presentation, she had some emotion because of what she experienced. And I thought that younger parents might have reaction, but I thought they may, help process. I had a little bit concern with that, but what happened, all the others were fine. The one I never thought she would reacted. And it was really hard. In the end, I said, I hope you could help peace tonight. She said, I cannot help peace, when this happens. So it was really hard for me. I cried after that. I didn't cry when I talked to her, but later I think of many people, they have this kind of mentality. They just like we talk about a culturalization, the cultural development stage for some people, they criticize the victims, right? I feel like kind of maybe she's processing that. And I feel this her feeling for she really had a hard time, but I didn't feel I need to make apology, right? I feel I didn't do anything wrong. It's so hard, but I really feel painful because she and I had a very good relationship. I feel like kind of losing not a parent, also a friend. So it was really hard for me. It took a while for me, and then eventually I just reached to her. I sent her a message. I didn't bother her for a while, for like several weeks, and then eventually, because it bites me time to time, and then eventually there was one time I said I cannot wait. So and then I sent her text message. I said I really cherish our friendship, and so I just want to let you know, if you want to talk, I'm here for you. Just like a short message. And she came back, apologized, and said, it was, I apologize. I'm sorry for my reaction, and everyone is entitled to have their feelings, and I reacted. So we came back into a reconciliation. It was really kind of emotional. Yes, that was. Yeah, I think people, they do need time to process. Sometimes it may take them a year or so, right? So I think Meg and Britta, maybe just in this process, it can be very hard for you, and we do. Sometimes maybe it's necessary to give ourselves and give them enough space and time to process, to grow.
Wow. Thank you, Yuji, for sharing that.
Thank you for the chance to share.
Yeah, that sounds like it was when it first happened, that was really hard for you. Again, not anything that you were expecting, and you're doing good by talking about inclusivity and finding a good speaker, and then bam.
The hard part was I felt like I cannot deny part of my responsibility, right? Because I was the one organized this. I was the one kind of the parent teacher, right? Parent educator. And for some people, they had this kind of difficulty. I kind of feel like I cannot deny part of my responsibility. I feel kind of sorry for that part. So I don't know if Meg and Britta, has that similar feeling. I feel like, that is something. Yes, that is really, that is part. And also I feel painful, for her to process, to go through this. Yeah, it was not easy.
Yeah, and then I think about all the parents that are fine that may have a similar reaction, but they never say anything, and then they just speak with their feet and they don't show up, and then there's that ambiguity of, at least with parents like this, I mean, to their credit, it's just like, boom, they're out there and they're letting you know, and you deal with it. And then in your situation, usually you hang in there and you're patient, and you know that it's not about you, and they, circle back and you can restore the relationship. So.
I have a random question that's unrelated to what we're talking about a little bit. And so I have this parent, and just saw that she's on my roster for spring as well and start on Monday. And literally I can't get her to stop talking in the parenting room. And it's like, I've tried everything. Like I've given her time in the parent-child time. I've talked to her beforehand. I've tried giving her the social cues. I'm sorry, I'm puppy sitting. And so my daughter's puppy's in and out. I just like, she talks about stuff like, as soon as somebody says something, she's like, well, my uncle's kid's sister's cousin. And it's just like on and on and on. And I can't stop her. I've tried everything. And like, I know that the other parents in the class were just like, oh my gosh, stop talking. I mean, she has 2 kids that are on the spectrum in the classroom. And I believe she probably is a little bit too. But I don't know what to do with her. And I'm about to start with her again on Monday night. And I'm like, okay, if any questions to ask, it's you're the group. So if anybody has great ideas, I would love to hear them.
Hey, Shelley, now that you're starting over, maybe what if you created some group guidelines?
We did that too, but yes, I can. Okay, what would be
really specific ones? Like you can't share more than a sentence. Okay, sorry.
But I don't
want
to
have the right to hold up the stop sign if you're talking to. Sorry.
No, I mean, I'm honestly at that point where like I want it to be a good class, and she's lovely, but she just she just doesn't get any of those social cues of you can't.
Shelley,
Yeah.
I had this happen once, and like Greta suggests, I made it so specific. So my things are up there, and I have focus on. So my list is like confidentiality, respect, and then there's a little thing. But one is focus, and it says the focus will be on the child in this class.
Okay.
I said, like, some of you have a first grader, some of you have a third grader, but not everybody in the room has a third or first grader. So we can't spend time talking about your third and first grader. If you want to
your
talk
cousin's, daughter's, sister's kid.
And so I mentioned focus on the child in this class.
Okay.
And I said, we are not here to talk about your nieces and nephews.
Okay.
Like because I had this exact thing.
Okay.
It was one of these situations where the mom was always one-upping her sister and her niece. Their kids were the exact same age. And it was my niece this and my niece that. And my sister's such a bad parent. And that's what it was. It was just this constant, I'm so much better at parenting than my sister and her daughter. And they're only 2 days apart. So I was like, we're going to talk about your kids, and we're not going to talk about nieces, nephews, neighbors, whatever. And that stopped her.
Okay.
This one, sounds like you might have a harder time.
It sounds.
I don't know.
Just finding that one thing, like Ellen said, that would meet that person, and saying, I'm just trying this out, but it might not work very well, but it gives you then permission to do the awkward thing, whatever that awkward thing is that you kind of maybe wanna.
I mean, I ended up like talking over her, like, because I didn't, I tried everything else, and I feel I don't want to do that either. I'm going to respect her as well.
I don't know if this would work for this particular parent, but I was shocker, I know. I was the parent who talked too much in my classes. Um, and something that helped with me is having me take a little bit of a leadership role in trying to make sure people who don't talk very much are really being heard. Like, so but if she's bad at social cues, which
Yeah.
I am not.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. I'm
I
like,
do,
you're
I'm a
very
tax-
different than she is, Becca.
And
I think-
sometimes having them come along as like, hey, can you help make sure that the quieter
Yeah.
parents are getting a chance to say something?
Yeah.
Well, and I also have share the time. I have airtime is one of my things, and it
Okay.
says, please be mindful of how much you are speaking. I said, some of us are chattier, some of us are quieter. I said, and I put this out there too. I'm like, I want there to be silence in this room sometimes. Silence is not always a bad thing. And I said, for some of you, silence is hard. I said, but silence, I want there to be silence so the quieter people have a chance to process and come up with something. And the chattier people give some time to let the quieter people jump in. So I basically say, silence is not a problem. Please don't fill it every time I leave some silence.
Yeah. Well, and she
And I
doesn't
don't-
even wait for silence. It's like someone will
Yeah.
share something and then she'll just go off on a tangent. And it's always somewhat related, but really not.
Does she
Yeah.
keep it at least within the group, or does she do side conversations too?
No, just within the group.
Well, at least there's that. That's a good thing.
Right. Right.
Silver linings.
Right. Exactly. Find the good. All right. Thank you. I'll try some
Well-
really good group guidelines on Monday.
Well, and Shelley, I've got a mom right now who of course she missed last week when I went through our beginning spring guidelines of let's focus on the child you're here with. And I even yesterday I was like, what's new with the kids that you're here with? And she still brought up her kindergartner.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so, I just want to beat my head against a wall,
Yep.
so frustrating when they're so in their own heads and they just miss all the cues. You could etch it on their arm and they'd still miss it.
Well, and she's super happy to be there. I mean, she's got 2 kids that are pretty involved, and it's a typical ECFE class. And like, she's had a good experience with the people that are in there. So I don't know, I want to try to make it as good as I can make it for the spring for everybody, including her.
Well, and I think the other thing you have to remember too, is that the other parents see you struggling.
They do, for sure. Mhm.
They're like, oh God, here she goes again. And they see you trying to, like literally turning away from her.
Yes.
Anybody else have a question?
You feel so rude sometimes.
I think that's when like that breaking into small groups as much as possible so that there's other opportunities for the parents who are being quiet to process.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
I was just gonna say the same thing, small groups, and then each group shares to the large group maybe, or not. They don't always have to, I
Right.
don't think, but yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's nice that you get to start fresh. I mean,
It's
really-
exactly the same group and then with 2 new families. So who knows? We'll see.
good luck. Let us know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and the upside is like you were saying, Shelley, she enjoys being there, and so you've created an atmosphere that she can just go off on. Like she can just my point being is that she feels comfortable, and I completely agree because she's in her own head. I was the questioner. And so like you get in your head and it's just like, I love being here. And this is the place that I get to learn and ask questions, or I get to talk about my like how I feel like I'm a better parent than cause I don't get to do that in other places. So it's like a positive thing, but you're in your own. And so I just completely echo the challenge, but the need for facilitation, right? Because that, whether it's the small groups or I love Ellen's guidelines and then once they're posted, the great thing about having stuff like that on the wall is while your wheels are turning, like I want this mom to is just like, let's gently walk back over here and remind, and so, yeah, because that's that still, because people love being there. It's not like they're angry. It's not that they're going to yell or anything like that. I mean, it's a good thing, right? That you've created that, but it does take a firm hand. So it does respect everyone. And we also know that people like that, like me, can, because they monopolize, the people who don't really feel comfortable talking won't say anything because they get accustomed to, well, she's the talker or she's the questioner or something like that, which then even behooves more this thing about having the small groups or doing the think, pair, share, right? Because then it just encourages everybody to have a voice. So.
And Shelley, something else that I did too, this was a really small group. I think it was only 6, but I had the mom who she just never shut up. I went to 2 or 3 of the other moms and I said, hey, today I'm going to ask you a direct question so that we can stay on task. And so they were prepared for me because usually I don't do that, right? Usually I'm not like, so-and-so, tell me about your day. Like that's, but I warned them ahead of time. I really want us to stay on task today. And I don't remember all the topics we were having, but, so then that helped too. And I was able to, instead of asking the question and anybody to jump in, I'd be like, all right, I'd love to hear so-and-so, how do you blah, 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 you know what I mean? And you kind of pick your Beccas or your Ellens in the group who are ready with an answer like that. Do you know what I mean? Who don't need that processing time.
Yeah. And I do have several parents in there who I've known for 3 or 4 years that I can trust to do that.
Yep.
It's just sometimes it's not related to any question. That's
I know. And I found too that the people who share kind of the inappropriate stuff are the ones who feel like they have the least amount of, they're like, well, my stuff isn't exciting, but here's a story that'll like, wow, everybody. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're just trying, it's kind of a show-offy thing.
Yeah.
That's what I found with those oversharing parents.
The overshare.
Also, the oversharing, but also then the parents who is like, they have it down or they have the answer or they always, it's not necessarily a monopolizer, but we'll always have I do that too. And I have that and I have this I read those books too. We read like 30 minutes a night, every night. It's the ones who need that a validation of some sort too that are a challenging parent. I find, I don't know, does anyone else run into that? And do you have strategy? Sure. I mean, what do we think about that? How do we as facilitators, what do we do in those situations? I'd love to hear what you guys think about that.
Well, Greta, let me ask you, I mean, how is it disruptive or how does it fit or affect the flow of the conversation? Because if it's an occasional thing, it's just like, yep, that's what she needs and we're moving on. Is it more of a chronic constant thing that pulls attention away, or what's the issue you have with it?
Oh, good. Very good. You're such a good questioner. I love that. Okay, so the real question I have is, how do we work with that parent who I know she's really struggling? She has a lot of stuff going on inside. She has a child who's in evaluation right now. She's there's a lot of stuff going on, but she's feeling like she needs to do that. So what my question is what do we do as parent educators to walk alongside in that situation with that parent? Obviously, demeaning, to call her out and say, no, you don't do that. I know. We wouldn't do that, obviously. We're not going to call her on the carpet or something like that. But what are some strategies that you use for a parent who's in that situation? I'd love to hear. Okay.
If you, because you're talking about things that you feel they're claiming that they're doing and they're not, I would watch her in parent-child time and notice something she does well and put it in writing and mail it to her.
Oh, wow.
Because or even email it to her because she could print it off or keep looking at it. And lots of us don't get the kind of validation that we feel like we need. But sometimes if people are reaching for more, it has to do with the fact that they're not getting enough. And that if you chose something that you could see was really a good idea, that she was doing really well, and it would be private, but it might trip her towards not needing as much. No guarantee, but.
Love that. Love that. We could seesaw it privately on a private seesaw or something.
Yeah.
Like, I noticed this today. Just wanted to let you know. That was pretty cool or whatever. I'd like that gold star, Ellen.
Yeah, I think anytime we notice something that they're doing, they don't even realize, like that happened to me a couple weeks ago where I was like, oh, notice how much she keeps coming back to you. You're her security. And she's like, really? You think so? And I'm like, "Yeah." But like just that one little, like, yeah, I did notice that she is trusting you. And, so I agree. That's a great idea, just to validate what they are doing.
I did that too. I don't even remember what it was, but I remember I was like, oh yeah, I said, you totally did that. Yeah, I saw you totally did that. And she was like, oh, you did?
Yeah.
I just think, and I think on one hand, they're like, somebody noticed. And on the other hand, they're like, she's watching me that closely. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be like, I'm trying to be a creepy stalker or anything, but I remember her being like, oh, I guess I did do that, So I almost feel like one thing that I've been doing subconsciously this year is kind of like a New Year's resolution is just to say thank you more often.
Mhm.
Like how, like, oh, thank you, or, thank you for that, or thank you for this. And just like, and so I think just that being appreciated and noticing people. And I think we have a lot of power because we are noticing those teeny little details. And I've all told you about my dad, that one dad who is coming to class, right? And he's loving on his kids. And I see him giving little smooches. He and his son did a little nose rub the other day. And it's really interesting to see this shaved, tattooed, dreaded dad doing a nose rub. But I was like, I saw that. It was really cute. And he was like, oh, like he kind of looked like, oh, no one was supposed to see that. But we do have these little glimpses, these little intimate moments that we kind of catch. I think that's super powerful.
I'm struck by how when we talk about kids, we teach and we know that all behavior is a form of communication, right? And we forget sometimes, I think, that that's true of grown-ups too. And so parents who are demanding attention and needing validation desperately, like that's a behavior that's communicating something, like they don't feel seen. And so doing that, but like what Ellen's talking about, doing the, like, I see you, like, I think that could be even more meaningful than the time spent, me too, or whatever that's happening in class. We all need to feel seen and heard.
And I think that I'm just struck by the number of people that I talk to that immediately go to deficit mindset. And so what they're expecting when they hear something from us is going to be something we've noticed they're doing wrong. And because I've had conversations recently where it's just like, would you like to talk about, this, what I've observed? And the immediate thing would be, yes, how can I get better? Or how can I improve, right? And it's just like, actually, let's talk about all the wonderful things that like occurred here. And again, I'm going to come back to maybe my observation about social media and this generation of sort of young adults that are becoming parents and how influenced they are by negativity or this fear or this almost like this invisible audience, right? That is constantly around them, and that I think just has pervaded a lot of their own thinking about themselves. That I think that and then when they're working so hard, they're like, so much is going on in their lives and they are holding the world on their shoulders. And it is just so hard. And then make an observation that is a neutral observation, but because everything is so hard right then, their interpretation is deficit, is like that we're pointing out something that they haven't been doing, right? And so I almost think that we almost have to work a little harder, you know, to just catch them being good, you know, and say it. And I love Mary Kay's idea about, you know, and the gold star parenting, and just, you know, recognizing it and saying it, but speaking it out loud. Because Ellen's right. I mean, there is a position of power, and it isn't, and I think of regard. Again, I've reflected to you guys my just amazement talking to parents who are parents of in parenting education classes, how many of them really do view the parenting educators as almost like a spiritual leader, you know, that like Becca, that kept you coming back year after year after year in that class with one particular individual, that on a really bad day in your life, if that individual, you know, pointed out just something wonderful that you were doing with your kid, right, that was just part of you being you, the huge difference that would have made in your day, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, it's one more thing, I know, on top of everything else that we do. But you know, Becca and I were in exchange about fine, you know, right now I think everybody is so just overextended, overwhelmed, so stressed, and you know, and even if the sense of COVID is lifting something else is going on, you know, in a personal neighborhood, teachers strike, other side of the world, you know, kind of way.
Languishing.
Yeah. Languishing. Is that what you said, Mary Kay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. I know there's probably more people out there, more of you out there that could say more about that, because I think it's fabulous to hear what your strategies are, because it iron sharpening iron kind of thing. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. This is what we do. And sometimes I forget how much of that I do, but then sometimes I'm not doing as much, because I'm also tired and languishing, right, at times. And that's what it feels like. I heard the fine-ish, you know, put an ish at the end. How are you doing? Fine-ish. It kind of adds that little bit of extra, like, and not just saying fine. It's, you know, I am thinking about what you're saying, not just responding quickly with a fine, but fine-ish.
Okay, since I'm not the only Inspector Gamache readers, oh, sorry, I can't talk. Read what it.
Okay, this is like the most inappropriate time for you to cough. You are mid-sentence, and we are all like 12 of us sitting here waiting for you to come back. But you've been saved by Becca's child.
I can't talk, so go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that I do in my class is for parent-child interaction time, I do a lot of observations during that time. I'll interact with families, but I try really hard just to let the parents be with their kids. And if I have a topic that I know, you know, specifically, sometimes I'll just look for an example of a parent doing it in the classroom with their child that day, and I'll bring it up in front of the class. I'll be like, well, today, when this interaction happened between these two students, this is how these two parents handled it. And this is what they're, you know, because parents aren't watching other people do it. And I think sometimes those parents are kind of too like, oh, you saw that. And oh, that is the appropriate way to handle that. Okay, well, that's good, because I wasn't quite sure if that's how I should have handled it.
I do that too. And then sometimes I'll even say, I've seen you do that with your child before. You know what I mean? Like, I've heard you emotion coach or whatever like that. So that noticing is huge. Becca, you have a clinger.
He heard me laughing and then it was like all over. Yeah, Lily and Matt are home from school today. It's a teacher conference day. So this is Matthew. He's 8.
Matthew.
I don't think I knew you had a Matthew.
I do. And a Lily. She's
Hi,
7.
I knew about Lily, but I didn't know you also had a Matthew. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Ellen, we're glad you recovered. Was there something else you were
I want to
gonna-
know what you were going to say about Gamache.
Yeah.
Just the acronym for fine. Like when
Okay.
people say I'm fine, I'm effed up, insecure, neurotic, and egotistical. So fine, whenever I hear I'm fine, I'm like, I wonder if you're Louise Penny fine, get Ruth Zardo fine, whatever. But it just makes me laugh. But I love that there's 2 other people here who are reading those books. The 3 Pines mysteries. If you're in for a mystery, read them. There's like 20 of them.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And also audiobook are they're really good because they also give you a sense of the personalities of the characters and that kind of thing. Although the guy that was doing the reading for the first 7 books passed, and so they had to get somebody else. And my brain, just after having a character's voice, you know, especially Gamache's like voice. Anyway, thank you for being patient, the rest of you. They really are a nice low-key mystery series, not a lot of blood and guts, good, just focus, you know, there's like the same characters. It's just like watching Columbo or any other TV serial where there's the same characters and then they have, you know, new people each time. So not a lot of intense anything, and just a good mystery that you pretty much figure out who did it about halfway through. So anyway, well, thank you, everybody. This was a great conversation. Anybody have anything final or anything else before we close out for the day?
I had a quick question, Susan.
Mhm.
The week of Menafee, which is like 2 weeks from now, are we trying to meet at noon, or are we going to have a later meeting, or is there a plan?
Well, last year I kind of bullied my way into Menafee. Just, you know, again, I mean, I just sort of visualize what we're doing as being like this opportunity to, like, if it was a physical Menafee, I would just say, is there a room that we could have like a conversation with anybody who wants to show up, kind of thing?
Is it done at noon? Is it done at 11:30 or noon? Like what's the fine? I'm looking it up.
I
What's
think
the
it's
final
done at
time?
12:30. That's
Well,
why I
that-
asked about noon meeting, because I think the last session ends at 12:30.
Oh, okay.
Well, why don't we just bump it to 12:30 then, and then we can talk about what we learned. I mean, if we're feeling up to another hour on Zoom, I mean, what's another hour after 4 hours, right?
No, I think that's a great idea. And then, yeah. And if any of us are in sessions that morning, you can, if there's an opportunity, or you can put it in chat, you know, that we're going to meet at 12, you know, like there's a Perfect Connections discussion at 12:30, and we're going to just talk about what people picked up from the conference. And yeah.
What day is it? Is it on the 8th?
It's the 4th, 5th, and 6th.
No, I think it's the
6th,
no,
7th, 8th.
4th is Monday. Mine.
Oh, yeah, 6th, 7th, 8th.
Yeah, the 7th and 8th.
I have just a thought that maybe we could talk about next time. I would just like to know more information about like the ECFE and the legislator and how we can become more advocates. And I don't know, I just don't know anything about that.
There's
And
going to be a session, Megan, on that. So Amy Koch is the, she's going to be talking during one of the sessions. It's kind of a lunch session. So if you're doing Menafee, it's, does anyone have that paperwork handy? I don't, it's just on my phone, but
I can look it up too.
There is going to be a little 30-minute informational thing on the legislative session. So that you'll feel much more involved if you come to that.
Okay. Thank you.
And the word is she's phenomenal. Like she's an excellent lobbyist and really cares to represent Menafee and the issues for ECFE. So yeah, thanks, Ellen, for pulling that. I mean, the alternatively, so either Helen or Susan Summers, you know, we could invite to also join us. I know sometimes Fridays at noon can be tough, but that would be something down the road too, that, you know, for this time. Yeah, or to encourage them to, I don't even know what they're doing, but I mean, just ask if Susan or Heather or the, I don't know if the advocacy committee would have time to do a Zoom session, just open up a time, right, on Zoom, and then anybody who has questions could ask or something.
And Megan, I'm posting something in the chat right now that did maybe you did or didn't get this. Manafi sent this out maybe about 2 weeks ago, saying here's how you can fill in. It's very simple. My name is such and such. I'm a this. I'm writing to you on behalf of ECFE. I work in this program. I'm supporting this, blah, 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 blah. You sign your name and you send it and you're done.
It was so easy.
It's
It
a
was
script.
so nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So
Mhm.
then, and there's a place where you can search the district you work in. So I wouldn't send it from your own. I live in in a different district than I work. So I do my address of my building.
So Susan, you mentioned the advocacy committee. Is this committee within Manafi or another?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So is there any way I can reach to someone in this committee? I'm really interested in the policy, you know, advocacy.
Oh, you absolutely can. Susan Summers, what would you think?
Mhm.
Would she email Susan?
Yeah.
Let me pull up her email quick here. UG, she'd be delighted to have you.
Yeah.
Maybe Ellen, could you send an email to her and I introduce
Yeah,
each other?
yeah, I can do that. Yep.
Thank
Yep.
you so much. Thank you.
Yep. Good. Well, I tell you, you guys are amazing. All right. Well, thank you. Anybody else? I'm watching all these reruns now of Project Runway that I haven't been able to before, and they are just mind candy for me, I tell you. And so I have Tim Gunn speaking in my brain. So anyway. All right, everyone. Well, have a fabulous, fabulous week, and we will see you next week. Yeah?
Everybody.
Okay. Bye.